have been using the GLP. was some weird funky music. Hello, hello, hello. Happy Monday. It is Labor Day. Um, I have issues with Labor Day, so that's why I'm here laboring. Hey, Druid, thank you. I think we have a very small crowd today. I've got 2 attendees on my little Twitch meter, but I don't think it's usually right. So maybe I have more lurkers today, but maybe not. Maybe we're going to be a small cohort. So yeah, Labor Day is a weird one for me. So if you happen to be watching and you are not from the United States, Druid, it's you and me. Yay! It's a cake and Druid party. So Labor Day is a celebration of the American worker, which is great. But let's see. I will read what Google says. Labor Day's purpose is to recognize the social and economic contributions and achievements of American workers, honoring the labor movement and the struggle for better working conditions, safety, and rights, which I think is a great thing. I grew up in a union household. My father was a blue-collar worker. He was a welder and a pipe fitter. So my entire life I was a union kid. The union was very important. It meant food on the table, basically, because they fought for the rights of those construction workers. And today, unions remain important to construction workers. But here's a weird political aspect. And you guys know I'm not a political person. But this is something that's very interesting to me. So currently in the U.S., immigrant rights are a concern. Immigrations and Customs Enforcement, ICE, has been conducting, raids for illegal immigrants. And, okay, Druid, that sounds good though. Barbecue and ribs, yum, yum, yum, yum. No worries. If you got to go back down the hill, you go. But anyway, so this is the climate in the U.S. right now, and the ICE raids and everything are seen, as a Republican / right wing effort. Our president ran under the Republican Party, although I think he's really technically apolitical, right? But the interesting thing about unions, which are typically thought of as a democratic, and in fact, that's like, if you look up the AFL-CIO definition of union, you have this democratic aspect of it. Union workers get to vote and all this kind of stuff in the union. But the purpose of unions, particularly in the construction trades, because I've worked extensively there, not just as a in a union family, but also as part of my career. In the construction trades, unions are heavily lobbying for the rights of skilled workers, aka anti-immigrant. So essentially the immigrants that are here and doing kind of the light labor or the very low level labor, it's kind of meant to limit them or put barriers around their ability to be in higher wage earning jobs, the skilled jobs, and to preserve those jobs for Americans at a certain wage. So it becomes very convoluted and very complicated when you look at the efforts of different factions in the United States. And that for this reason, this is one of the very reasons that I'm very apolitical, because I'm like, there's no point in identifying yourself as a Republican or a Democrat, because both of them are up to some shenanigans. So there you go. I also believe that there is a vast overreach of unions. There are unionized environments that have no business being unionized. And I actually have a little piece that I wanted to read about the triangle shirtwaist fire, which I think is a situation that needed to be unionized, and in fact happened long after, well, I don't want to say long, but after the union movement, the workers' movement in the United States. So, it remains a horrible stain in the workers' rights movement. But for instance, my husband works for the state, and state workers are unionized. Now, the state is responsible for maintaining, laws that promulgate workers' rights, such as maintaining the state EEO commission and the labor relations board, et cetera, et cetera. So it seems ridiculous to me that the people that work under that legislative protection then are unionized. And in from that perspective, and I have worked for organizations that did, for lack of a better term, it's anti-union activity, but it's basically what they would call it is union avoidance, and this would be in retail, and so I'm pretty well educated on like the pro and anti-union sentiment, and the anti-union sentiment is that there is no protection for people in a management level, and the pro-union sentiment is well, people in a management level are the ones that are the problem. Yes and no. And in the case of my husband's situation, he is management. He is a salaried management worker, and he has no protection, because he's quote unquote the enemy. And there are some union shenanigans going on and have gone on for many years, and it's just really disappointing. So anyway, that's my convoluted 2 cents about unions. Since there's a small audience today, I felt it's okay to like, Druid, the last tomatoes. You know what I have not had this summer? And I think I might have to go out. I think there's still a vegetable stand down the street. I have not had a tomato sandwich this summer. And I mean, that is absolutely criminal. Tomato sandwiches are so important in the summer months. Potato salad, also homemade potato salad, worth its weight in gold. The garbage that they sell in the grocery store, that is not good. Homemade potato salad, yummy, yummy in my tummy. So I thought, in honor of Labor Day, I will actually read some info about workers' rights. So the AFL-CIO, I will actually pop this link in because it's an interesting piece, and I'm not going to read all of it. Let's see. I don't know why. For some reason, it never lets me put a link in. So let me switch over here. Oh, homegrown potatoes too. Oh my gosh. I'm jealous. So jealous. Okay, so the Triangle Shirtwaist Fire, if you are into textile history, Twitch has changed since last time. I have long had an issue with the stream chat in my software. I have to bounce back over to just my login. It's weird. I don't know. It's given the technology problems that I've had in the past week and a half, I don't know. Who knows? I guess we go through these periods of time when everybody's making changes, Like I have a Chrome update I need to make. And I just made a Chrome update the other day, so I don't know. All right. So the Triangle Shirtwaist Fire. Well, actually, let me go back for a second because just to give you some historical context, so the key aspects of Labor Day. It's celebrated on the first Monday of September and provides a day of rest and leisure, symbolizing the unofficial end of summer for many people. Now, granted, construction workers, my guess is they're probably off today. But I think the very people that probably could benefit from union protection are the very people who are working today. service industry workers, people that are generally not treated well by the public, they're working today. So there's no rest and leisure for those people. So the key aspects of Labor Day: tribute to workers. It serves as a federal and national tribute to the achievements and contributions of all American workers and the country's strength, prosperity, and well-being. It honors the labor movement. And this was something that's interesting to me. I had no idea that the very first Labor Day celebration was held in New York City on September 5th, 1882. And it became a federal holiday in 1894 after a growing movement pushed for a day to recognize American workers and their achievements. So 1882 and 1894, this is the history of Labor Day. Yet the Triangle Shirtwaist Fire happened in 1911, and it is horrifying. So on Saturday, March 25th, 1911, a fire broke out on the top floors of the Triangle Shirtwaist Factory. Now, this is in New York. Firefighters arrived at the scene, but their ladders weren't tall enough to reach the upper floors of a 10-story building. Trapped inside, because the owners had locked the escape exit doors, workers jumped to their deaths. In half an hour, the fire was over, and 146 of the 500 workers, mostly young women, and most of them were immigrants, were dead. Many of us have read about the tragic Triangle Fire in school textbooks. I didn't. I vaguely remember doing some, labor, American workers' rights, labor union kind of stuff in like my government class, but I do not remember anything about the Triangle Shirtwaist Fire until adulthood. So many of us did not read about it in our school textbooks. But the fire alone wasn't what made the shirtwaist makers such a focal point for worker safety. In fact, workplace deaths weren't uncommon then. They were not. It is estimated that more than 100 workers died every day on the job around 1911. Horrifying considering that the labor movement had been around for like 20 or 30 years. And Labor Day has been celebrated at this point for 20 years. The shirtwaist maker's story was so compelling because it brought attention to the events leading up to the fire. After the fire, their story inspired hundreds of activists across the state and the nation to push for fundamental reforms. For some, such as Frances Perkins, who stood helpless watching the factory burn, the tragedy inspired a lifetime of advocacy for workers' rights. She later became Secretary of Labor under Franklin Delano Roosevelt. So, and the average shirtwaist maker, they could be as young as 15. They worked 7 days a week from 7 a.m. to 8 p.m. with half-hour lunch breaks. And during the busy season, their work was almost nonstop. They were paid about $6 a week. The factories were also unsanitary. They had to leave the building to use the bathroom. And so management began locking the doors to prevent interruption of work. And only the foreman had the key, so they had to beg to use the bathroom. So that is horrible. This is where I think labor unions are very important in protecting workers' rights and their safety. And also, in the U.S. we have OSHA, which is the Occupational Safety and Hazard Administration, which in any kind of workplace, they would have regulatory reach, but typically their dangerous workplaces are kind of their purview. And so factories, construction sites, any place where there's machinery, warehouses, that kind of thing. And they protect people from the perspective of safe work. So it's kind of like labor unions and organizations like OSHA kind of work in tandem. So anyway, happy Labor Day. Happy end of summer. Because I'll be honest, most people think of Labor Day as the end of summer, Memorial Day is the beginning, and people don't give much else thought to those holidays. So, all right, on to the more fun things. You're welcome for me starting this on a bummer. Okay, so I have more fun Festival of Quilts stuff. And I think I'll probably maybe do one more stream with Festival of Quilts things. Um, I there's so many other pictures I have to show. So, what I wanted to look at today though is the quilt creations category, um, which I really liked. I thought these were so great. You are welcome, Jared. Okay, so make sure I got my other screen. Of course not. Bum, bum. I change one thing. I said this the other day. I change one thing and like 72 other things decide they're going to change. So, okay. So, I also have, I remember to grab the catalog so I can read some of the specifics about these. So this first is a sculptural piece, and you can see how big this thing is, and you by the people that are standing behind it. So I will read about this one. So this is by Alice Burnhope and Art House Jersey Community Groups. So I think Art House Jersey would be like like an art organization of some kind. Designed by Alice Burnhope, Bexley, UK, and this is called Stone Upon Stone. Natural dyeing, patchwork, embroidery, pattern cutting, 3D construction, dead stock, naturally dyed fabrics, foam scrim, and straw. Stone Upon Stone, created by textile artist Alice Burnhope, is a large, soft dolmen sculpture embroidered by community groups. Inspired by Jersey's geology and plant life, it evokes the Neolithic era, inviting viewers to reconnect with nature and experience ancient rituals and landscapes. So I thought this one was interesting because, I went on to see some of the geographic highlights of the region. And while these are more Stonehenge-y, many of the stones there in that sort of central area, sort of south central part of England, are just these gigantic monolithic stones. And that I think that's what these are conveying. And also they were just really cool. I wanted to lay down on them. So you can see the embroidery in here. And I mean, these are really, they're made like upholstery. Like they have a zipper down the side in all of them. So you can, stuff and restuff. And I thought that was really cool. So this very organic, abstract embroidery. And the dyeing. This was some like sort of collage-y piece in here. This looks like it was a patterned fabric that has then been embroidered on top of it. And so these like little portholes are interesting. And, I think they're there to evoke sort of the just the surface of these stones. They're sort of pockmarked and cratered and very organic. This one had these rings on it, and I kind of wondered if maybe these, you're able to move them around, like depending on how, they can change the way that they're displayed perhaps. And so maybe this one could hang. I don't know. Or maybe it's just a embellishment. I'm not sure. So yeah, here's more of the embellishments. I mean, these almost remind me of the stones themselves. This very cool stuff. And then the dyeing is really neat too, because in some cases it looks like it's just sort of spattered on there, and in other cases this kind of reminds me of like where you kind of crumple up the fabric and dye it, sort of like ice dyeing. I got all kinds of looking through the holes there. And then I held my camera up to try to get the top of it because I stood on my tippy toes, but I still was not tall enough, so I had to hold my camera up. Okay, so that's that one. This one, let me see. Let me skip ahead to the, okay, so 18. So this one is Liberty. So this is by Ilaria Harris, designed by Ilaria Harris, London. It's called 150. And this is for the 150-year celebration of Liberty. So machine quilted on batting and lining to create a light quilted garment. Tana lawn, quilt batting, natural cotton, threads, celebrating 150 years of liberty and honoring the wider sewing community. The overskirt has been made with unique Tana lawn squares. The inside is hand painted, is a hand painted scene of the store. So look at the flip side of it. The mannequin itself is decorated with squares that create a gradual change in color from dark blue to bright red. And this one was, let's see, this one was awarded excellence in machine quilting as well. Or it was, I'm assuming, they have this. Yeah, I think that's what this means. So they've given this little key. And there's excellence in hand quilting, excellence in machine quilting, excellence in long arm quilting, and the Metler Thread Mastery Award. And it says in all categories where quilts are judged, makers may have put themselves forward for an additional award, and these are marked as follows. So I don't know if it's that they were awarded or if this just is identified as one that they put themselves forward for. That's not clear to me. But I think there's only a handful of them in this exhibit that have that designation. So perhaps, I don't know. And here you can see the graduation from blue to red. And I mean, all of these different Tana lawns, you know, they have, Liberty has a vast collection. Collection is not the right word, just a vast history of different fabric prints. It's just kind of endless. I mean, they've been in business for 150 years, and I assume the fabric has been around, you know, that long. So here's it's listed as the inside of it, and I'm kind of wondering if they put it on backwards or, you know, inside out, because this is obviously the back side, I guess. But this was really cool because it's painted. And you can see the gold ship on the top. And, you know, these, it's faux Tudor house. And that's what the front of Liberty looks like. I think they did a really great job. Or she did a great job. This is not a collective. Oh, here's a detail of the painted. Painting on fabric is not easy, you know, and like even with fabric paints, you sometimes have to sort of prime the fabric a little bit so it doesn't soak, you know, all the paint in. So I don't know, you know, if that's the technique she used or what, but I mean, I think it's a fantastic job. Okay, this one, 24, okay. So this one is a temperature piece. So this is by Emily Boyd Upholstery, which I think is pretty cool. Like, she's an upholsterer. Like, I guess she has a business. So Emily Boyd, Chepstow, UK. And this is called Shifting Seasons. Machine pieced half square triangle patchwork, hand quilting, traditional upholstery. Linen, cotton, and embroidery thread, traditional upholstery. A combination of my passion for traditional upholstery, try to say that 10 times, patchwork, and statistics. The quilted section that runs through the center of the chair is a graphic representation of the high and low temperatures at my home for each day for the period 11 September 2023 to 28 July 2024. So not quite a year. And my guess that is because that's what best fit this chair. But yeah, I mean, these are some recognizable fabrics, but just used in such a lovely way. And it looks to me like the temperature there was pretty consistent. Chupsworth must not be a particularly warm place, because this looks like this is the spring and summer months, but you've got a lot of cold there. So, but a lovely piece. Oh, and I also like that they included her her design, her layout for it. And I guess it's maybe perhaps a little more balanced, but she's got, she's got the specifics here in the colors. And then she's got her days of the week written down. Oh, I did get a better look at it. Let's see. So what she's got written here is the quilted section that runs through the center is a graphic representation of highs and lows in degrees Celsius at my home each day for the period starting Monday, September 11, at the bottom left of the front panel, right over the top, and finishing at the bottom of the outside back with the predicted temperature of Sunday, 28th July. The first few lines of this are shown in the diagram below. I don't think I got a picture of the back of the chair. I didn't. So I honestly, I'm not sure. It may have wrapped all the way around. In fact, it probably did. Okay. This piece. So a while back, gosh, it was probably at least in the spring or maybe the winter, Jill showed, on Quilt Nerding, Jill showed us the pieces of a show that was at New England Quilt Museum. And I don't think it traveled. It was just from New England Quilt Museum, to the best of my knowledge. It was called Stitch Punk. So it was a steampunk theme. And it was curated by Cheryl Sloboda, who is an artist, and she also owns a craft, like quilting and craft and fabric store in Paducah, Kentucky. So it's called Muppin's Emporium, I think. And so anyway, there was a piece by this artist in that show, and it was a mannequin, like a dressmaker's mannequin, that had very similar collection of found objects sewn onto it. And so this is the same artist, and this one is called, oh crud, let me find the number here. Okay, so 04. I'll come back to that in a minute. So where is she? Okay, here we go. Kate Crossley is the artist, and she's from Kirkby in Ashfield, UK, and this piece is called Baggage: Hand and Machine Quilting and Stitching, Recycled Cotton Canvas, Bag Hardware, Found Objects. Baggage is a textile and found object assemblage exploring the emotional and material weight we accumulate. Through the use of worn fabrics and found objects, baggage reflects on memory, identity, and the personal histories we hold on to or choose to leave behind. And this one is actually also for sale, and she has 2,500 pounds on this one. And there were a couple pieces in here that are for sale. None of the ones we've looked at thus far, though, except for this one. So this is so fun to look at, because, you get up in here close and you see all of the things that she's put on here. So you've got arrowheads. These are like square nails, these metal rings, little ampules, like bells. There's also a good deal of sewing items on here. There's like a little pocket full of thread and needles and things. There's all these little like identification tags, I guess is what you'd call them. There's like a fox hunting horn. all sorts of little charms and like found object things like rocks, and I don't know, that might be something from the beach. I'm not sure. This is a bedroll, I guess, but it's a quilt. It's a hand quilted quilt. There's a parasol. I mean, you can imagine a person going on a backpacking trip with all of this stuff, like carrying their life on their back. Now, this was interesting. So, I don't know that I'd mentioned this before, but some of the quilts had judges' comments with them, which I thought was actually really cool. This is something that at QuiltCon, I think a lot of people request, and I think it might be the winners. Some category winners might get some feedback, but for the most part, you know, they don't get a whole lot. Oh my gosh, Drew, a Twitch changed back. Okay. As long as I'm still streaming, that's all that matters. So this was a note from Judge Caroline Harvey, and she says, a compelling, fascinating piece. I love your collection of found objects. You have traveled well. I don't know that these objects are necessarily things she's picked up on her travels, but okay, so here's a closer look. You know, all of these things, you know, all these hearts, this articulated hand. It's like an artist's mannequin, you know, for sketching. I think this is definitely like a beach find. All of these little vials full of things. You know, I think they were things like soil and some sort of naturally occurring objects and things. Huh. That's interesting, Druid. Either the chat or the community, but not both. Huh. Well, it's always something. This giant clock. This was pretty big, this clock. And I really loved how she kind of takes all of these disparate pieces, and I think she probably dyes things to make them kind of homogeneous, so they all look like they're sort of weathered at the same time. This book is kind of like that. You can see more of the bedroll. I really love this piece. This was like a sort of a felted cord. And you can see more of like the bells. I actually have some of these bells. They're just, you know, from like the Asian store, Pearl River Market, so that kind of thing. A cicada. I love cicadas. Yeah. So this just was such an interesting thing. A pan. No, you got to do your cooking when you're on the road. A little whisk broom. Oh, there's a whole bunch of doll hands, doll arms, keys, buttons. Definitely all sorts of symbology. Oh, this looks like an egg timer, like a little hourglass kind of thing. Yeah. Very cool. Oh, one last look. I think this might have been like a salt shaker. Yeah, lots of rusty objects. Oh, crochet hooks, clothespins. Okay, this one, let me find, okay, it's number 3. So this one is called, I think it's Achievement. Yes, Achievement. So this is by Caroline J. Harvey, UK, literally EYE, UK. And it's called Achievement. Scrap collection, stitching, cotton, silk, woolen threads. We purchased this awards board at auction, not wanting it dismantled for the silver. I would imagine that probably lots of people might take this and melt those little badges down. to get the silver, is their point. Over 2 years, I used scraps from my projects to create textile shields. Here is 2 years of textile joy in one creative cabinet. So I thought this was kind of fun. So you have these very shiny, pretty badges. I don't know what they're for. But then the little textile badges are so charming. Oh, whoops. I guess I didn't get a better picture of it to see what these badges are for. Yeah, it looks like it's just got a name and a date and dates. And these are all from the 20s. Looks like theirs goes into the 1930s. Yeah. So it's just a name. So they could be for anything. Could be for darts, bowling. Who knows? Okay, these are 4 different pieces, and this is by the Ukrainian Quilters Association. This was designed by Tatiana Lysenko, and oh gosh, I don't know if I can pronounce the town in Ukraine that she's from, but it's, or that the Quilters Association is in, but it's ZAPORIZHZHIA. So Zaporizhia. I try. So this is called Flow of Life. The Flow of Life, made of textile modules fixed in foam with pins and sequins. Back is hardboard and hanging hardware. Silk, synthetic fabrics, foam, hardboard, pins, and buttons. The Flow of Life is a textile installation about transformation. 4 modules shift in rhythm, reflecting growth and change. Organic and industrial elements merge through fabric, metal, and geometry, forming a pulsating field, a metaphor for life under systemic pressure. And this one they have priced at £2,400, and it has the Metler Thread Mastery Award designation. So I don't know, like, again, I don't know if that it won that or if it was just put forward for that. I'm not sure. So let me go through, because I'll show you. I took a picture of kind of at an angle, and then I took a picture of all of them together. So as best as I can tell, these use that technique that you may have seen in like Christmas ornaments, where you fold fabric and then you secure them with pins. And so this is kind of like that technique, but on steroids, I guess. Because you can see like these forms come out of the background, and then that same technique is still on the flat part of the piece, and then they're separated by this cording that is made of the same fabrics. So it's technically interesting, like the technical aspects of it. So this is the one that's on the far right, I think. Yeah, for some reason I went backwards, but I think it was probably because of the crowd. This one is a more silvery version. And again, you can see it's like kind of the same thing, but different colors, meant to evoke, I guess, different types of metal. And they use these metallic fabrics, and then I guess they're sequins. But I think that they were like real metal. I don't know that they were like plastic sequins. I'm not sure. These look like maybe they're upholstery buttons. I thought this one was the prettiest, the copper one, because I think it's meant to symbolize like the patina on copper, like the verdigris on copper. And really lovely fabrics. And it's interesting to me. I was kind of curious. They had another very large piece. The Ukrainian Quilters Association. I'm kind of curious to know where they get their fabrics from. Whether, they're importing from the US, or if they have, maybe a line from some of the factories in China. I'm not sure. I feel like many places around the world do import their fabrics from the US, which we're importing our fabrics from China, Korea, and Japan. So, but knowing that quilting is not as big of an art form in other countries, if they don't have like big stores or other methods of selling fabric readily. So this one's interesting because I think this fabric this is just what the fabric looked like, but they've folded it in such a way that it gives this sort of starburst effect. So this one I saw as being like steel. It's kind of industrial looking. So it was like steel, copper, silver, and gold was kind of what I saw. So this is kind of looking down the row at them. And they're not terribly large pieces. I would have said that they were probably like, I don't know, 15 or 20 inches square, maybe not even that big. And then this is what they look like from backed up. And it just occurred to me, and I think I noticed this before, but that we're going from 4 domes to 9 domes to 16 domes to what I'm guessing is 24. 25, I guess. 25 domes. So yeah, there's that progression as well. Layered meaning, I think. Oh, I circled back to take another picture of this. Okay, so this one, I really wish that I think I could have asked one of the white gloves to open this up, but they were busy. But I think that these little button closures opened and this thing would open up. This one is by Helen Creasy of Surbiton, UK, and it's called While Not in Use. Whole cloth, dyed, free motion quilting, calico, dye, thread, and batting. This quilt was inspired by a simple wish for it to remain beautiful even when folded and not in use. Drawing on the form of a lotus flower and the art of origami, when not in use, is both functional and sculptural, offering beauty in storage as well as in use. Please view opened as well as folded. So, unfortunately, I didn't get to see it open, but I can only imagine it. It must be very pretty. I think that I love the pink and purple. And it's clear that she planned it out in such a way that when it was folded, that pink and purple would be the way we see it. So I really wish I could see what it looked like open, but unfortunately I did. I could probably track down this lady's. Let's see. I could probably look at her Instagram. We'll have to look at that. So here you can see all of the quilting. Very lovely. This was fun. This was a bag with a hole in the middle of it. Let's see. This one is called, 17. So this one's by Becky McVitie of Cannock, UK. And it's called O, as in O. There's a hole. Applique cording, piping, and quilting. Cotton interfacing, firm text stabilizer, zipper. I had been looking at the architecture, spiral staircases, and mosaics in Gaudi's work, and I really wanted to incorporate a spy hole to peep through. I wanted to create something that was vivid, but also a piece of fun. I enjoyed the puzzle of the construction. And so, yeah, I have to think about how she might have constructed it. And you can kind of see this like sort of aspect of spiral staircase, and I knelt down, I guess, for the next picture. I need to see through the hole better. But my guess is she constructed the 2 sides and then got the hole and then constructed the rest of it. But I'm sure that there's some engineering that had to go on, like on the inside to line it, etc. So it's a fun piece. And this is the back of it. And it's funny, some of them still had their covering from when everything gets judged. They have to cover up the names so that it's blind judging. Okay, this one is by Rachel Boyes Watson, and it is called Cultivate. Pleated whole cloth quilting, Suffolk puffs, which we know are yo-yos, English paper piecing, trapunto, bead weaving and embroidery, a reclaimed cutlery box, linen, family cloth scraps, and silk. A sampler interpreting Voltaire's exhortation in Candide to cultivate our garden. My work often features text and offers the viewer phrases as objects of contemplation. Meaning reveals itself to me through the act of the hand stitching. And this one also was a, let's see, Metler Thread Mastery Award. And so this, you can see she's got lots of little details. Like these look almost like little flower like patches, kind of like little, but they might be embroidery. Yeah, I think they are embroidery. So they've got little petals. That's a stump work technique to make those little petals. And this is all English paper piecing. And then this is the back side of it. You can see this is a technique. It's called faggoting. An awful title, but it's where you take strips of fabric and then connect them. Okay. Plant the right seeds. So this piece, 16. So this is by Teresa Ward of Dudley, UK, and it's called Make Do and Mend, Reshaping the Self Through Stitch. English paper piecing, machine quilting, freestyle embroidery, recycled cloth, wire mesh, and various embellishments. In January 2024, I decided to improve my physical and mental health through some lifestyle changes. Using clothing that became too loose and with the wire form based on my current shape, this work represents my progress so far. Stitching played a key part in improving my focus and overall mental well-being. So it looks like she took, again, pieces of garment and, did all of these different types of fabric manipulations. You've got the Suffolk puffs or yo-yos, and it looks like these may have been English paper piecing, and then this is like a scrunching and couching technique, and you have sort of some little pleating, I guess. Very neat. And then this is the inside of it, and she has stitched, and it looks like it's a machine stitching, but it says Make Do and Mend all over it. So yeah, I'm guessing it's the English paper pieced part is sort of the foundation, and she was able to quilt it, and then I'm guessing some of the other pieces were embellishments were applied on top. This one is called Seed Pod. This is by Keita Jones of Derby, UK. Machine embroidery, hand embroidery, pieced patchwork, wet wool felting, silk, wool felt, cotton beads, threads, wadding, and polymer clay. I don't remember what the polymer clay would have been. Maybe some of these little embellishments. She says the life cycle of a plant is something familiar to us all, but it is a fascinating process with surprising shapes, colors, and textures. I tried to imagine an undiscovered seed pod with alien anatomy. What would it look like? And this one is labeled, it's for sale, and 2,500 pounds. And then it is labeled with, let's see, excellence in hand quilting and excellence in machine quilting was put forward. Let's look at some of the details. So yeah, it's a pod that's like popped open, and it's got all these little tufts on it, and it looks like moss, like a mossy kind of stuff. I was really fascinated by these tendrils and how they're beaded at the tips. I don't know what would be the polymer clay though. That's the part I'm interested to know. Yeah, I wonder if maybe it was used in some way as like a under like structural. Because everything else these look like beads. These don't look like anything that was handmade. They look like, glass beads. Those little tufts are cool. And here I got close in. These were really neat. Okay. This one is by Alison Blackburn of Dover, UK, and this one's called 1,000 Stitches. Machine pieced and hand quilted, cotton, linen, recycled polyester quilt as filling. Oh, there's a quilt on the inside. Unbound by the conventions of a quilt as much as it still resembles one, and at over 30 meters long. It is constructed with many orphan blocks interspersed with cloth from my stash. Hand quilted the entire length, simply starting as parallel lines, becoming more complicated and direct and decorative. Priced at £3,500, and this one was put forth for excellence in hand quilting. So you can see some interesting bits of fabric, obviously from her scraps is what she said. And it was coiled up in like a big coil. I don't know if I got a picture of the top of it. Yeah, here's the the pile of it lying on the ground to indicate how big it was. And it was wrapped around the plinth. Okay, this one. This artist, I think, had 2 different pieces in this exhibit, and I'm not sure if I got a picture of the other one. But these cats just made me laugh so hard. And I don't know if it was meant to be humorous. I'm hoping it was, because the cats are just like but this is by, the artist is Gulsum Güzen İlbi of Istanbul, Turkey. And it's called Winter Night's Tale. Tale, not Tail, although we've got some cattails in there. Hand sewing, hand applique, machine quilting, Japanese textile, moulin embroidery thread, polyester batting. I made this quilt with the inspiration I got from the peace provided by cats on a winter night and the crows of the city where I live. And so, yes, there are also a lot of crows in here. And I did not see the crows at first. And then when I really started looking, I was like, oh, there's birds in there. So these cats just, like I said, these cats just crack me up. And then it looks like there's these little dolls here in the corner. But the cats are the stars of the show. And this one they have listed for sale at £1,000. So this was fun. This was a book. And I'm not sure. Well, I guess we can find out. I'm not sure if the book was composed before. So let's see. QC 22. I don't know if it was composed before the rusting began or what. There was a white glove person, so I have multiple pictures of this. She flipped through the pages of it for me. So, oops, where did it go? Okay, so this is Jilly Meeks, designed by instructions from Victoria Gertenbach. So I'm wondering if she took a class maybe in rust printing. She's from Nottingham, UK, and the title is called Rusting. Machine and hand stitch, rust printing, recycled cotton, linen, silk, and denim found objects. Combining my love of the making process, slow hand stitching, and found rusty objects. Recycled fabrics in the book include cotton, linen, silk, and teabag fabric, all reacting in different ways to the rusting process. Made following the Stitch Journal course from Victoria Gertenbach. So there's a person to look up, Victoria Gertenbach. Her last name is spelled Gertenbach. I'm sorry, Bach. So Victoria Gertenbach. Not familiar with her, but I know that there's a number of artists that do rust-related dyeing and printing. So, so it appears to me like she made this book and stitched the components down and then got it wet and let it rust. It doesn't seem to me that she did the rusting and then stitched the pieces, because it seems like they're too, too perfectly aligned. So she got so many really, really interesting, like patterns and prints out of this. This one looks like the piece, whatever it was, is either she removed it or it's bled through from other pages, maybe. I'm not sure. This would be just such a fun thing to experiment with. Because, I mean, my gosh, how many times do you walk through a parking lot and just find rusty junk on the ground? I used to pick up rusty junk. I don't necessarily anymore as much, but I mean, look at this. This is so cool. So this big rusty thing, but look at like just the intricate pattern you get here. It looks so different than the thing itself. These various gradations, and it looks like there's pieces. This might be like that tea bag silk or some other type of fabric sewn here. And I'm also wondering, I can't tell, it doesn't look like she came back in and did any more stitching, but that would have been interesting with larger pieces to maybe come back in and do more stitching. Very, very neat. I liked this, where she's got like these little windows, and then they're broken open, and think about, I showed Joe Avery's temperature and 100-day project books the other day, and contrasting those two different types of explorations of a fabric book. How very neat that these things are so different. Oh, this is neat. I just realized what this was. So this is a hole that she cut in the fabric. And it doesn't look like it matches up with this, because this matches up here. This thing, it looks like, didn't leave much. And then I guess I didn't get a very good picture of over here, but it looks like whatever that was, she cut out a hole, and you're seeing this through the hole. This is just so fascinating. Oh, and this is the front of the book. I like that. It's a piece of a tin can. Okay. So, moving along. This one is... this is the gentleman's waistcoat. Yes. So this is by Jackie Harvey, BEM. I don't know what BEM is, but she's from Holt, UK. Gentleman's 18th century waistcoat. So don't get confused by this. That's another piece that's behind the waistcoat. It looks like that's a weird sleeve, but it's behind him. Him. Look at that collar. Oh boy. Okay, so this one is applique, hand quilting in both backstitch and running stitch with some overpainting. And the materials are silk dupioni and pieces of embroidery from an 18th century garment. So this is like, some of it is the real deal. I found a wonderful piece of 18th century woven silk and was able to use the design to applique onto the waistcoat. The main quilting design is from an 18th century petticoat. So, and this is was put forth for excellence in hand quilting. So, I mean, you can see how beautiful these pieces are. I mean, it's just a lovely thing. I would love to see somebody wearing it. I thought that would be cool. The British Empire medal. I wondered if it was something like that. So BEM at the end of a name most commonly refers to the British Empire Medal, a civil award for meritorious community service, entitling the recipient to use the post-nominal letters BEM. Yep. So it's like the OBE. That's the Order of the British Empire. We don't have things like that in the U.S. I wish we did. Okay, so this is the other. So it was 3 garments that were put kind of back to back. So I don't know if I have great pictures of this. Here's the motorcycle jacket. That was the sleeve you could see behind here. And let's see. This is by Leslie Hutchinson of Belper, UK. And she used a style arc pattern. They have very cool clothes, by the way. Style arc. So this is called High Plains Biker. Seminole in piecing techniques adapted to fit within the panels. Panels quilted onto wadding prior to sewing together. Moda grunge in 4 colors. Thermal lamb wadding. Blending garment making with quilting, I modified a biker jacket pattern to showcase pieced and quilted panels in a modern take on the quilted jacket. Inspired by Native American and Seminole designs, I used bold color and symmetry to create a jacket marrying textile heritage with contemporary style. So I thought this one was really well constructed. She's obviously a very talented garment creator. I mean, this is definitely something I would wear out and about. Very, very cool thing. And I loved the quilting stitches, how she changed color and they mimic this. There was like a arrow kind of epaulet. Okay. So this is the one you could see the back of, or in the round. So this one is by Caroline Cook of Newent, UK, and it's called Plant Power, a Gardener's Jacket. Natural dyeing, eco printing, quilting, machine embroidery, hand stitch, felting, spinning, handmade paper. Recycled plant-based textiles, fiber, thread, wire, and wool. Using my photographs capturing the vibrant forms and textures of flora and fauna in my garden, the jacket is created with majority plant materials, mainly repurposed for sustainability. Featuring plants we use for different purposes, it aims to celebrate and encourage the value of common plants. So I thought this was fun because it's got, she's got these little felted pieces, which they look like cherry tomatoes to me. And I feel like that's what tomato foliage looks like, but I don't know. I'm not a gardener, so this looked like a big poinsettia to me. And then these giant buttons I thought were great too. And then she's got little plant stakes in there. Really cute. These kind of sheaths of kind of like corn husks, I guess, but she may be showing that as like another type of flower or something. Very cool. And then also notice the leaf printing. she's done this eco printing, and I'm assuming those are the real leaves that made those prints. I'm not sure. Okay, here's some more garments. Let's see. The one on the left is North London Stitch and Textiles. So I guess it's a guild or group. They are in London, and it's called Our Urban Landscape. Machine pieced and hand quilted in the ditch. Embroidery, applique, felting, print manipulation, digital printed lining, linen ground, cotton, silk, wool, and polyester, fabric and thread. The quilted coat is a collaboration by members of NLST, the North London Stitch and Textiles. Each member designed and made a panel, taking their inspiration from the urban landscape, iconic landmarks, local wildlife, architecture, and allotments. These unique personal interpretations come together to create a glorious, colorful coat. So, yeah, this was cool how, and you know, they're not necessarily all square panels. Lots of different, it looks like the Strawberry Thief, William Morris Strawberry Thief fabric. It's lovely ginkgos. This looks like some area of London. Looks like it could be an aerial view. It looks like a traffic circle. Now the one next to it, I think, let's see, I did not get the front of it, but I think, I'm pretty sure this one, I'm going to read the correct thing for this one. Bear with me a second. Let me make sure. Yeah, I think this is the correct one. This is by Nicola Daniels of Wirral, UK. Penny Candy Quilt Jacket. Yeah, it's matchstick quilted, so I think this is the right one. Machine pieced, matchstick quilted, quilting cottons, Aurifil threads, bamboo wadding. Last year I entered my rainbow penny candy coat, and this year here is my penny candy jacket. So I guess she's made multiples of this. Both were made from spoonflower sample fabrics very kindly donated to me by the graphic artist Amy Pepler, known as Penny Candy Designs. This jacket is for Amy as a thank you for her kindness and generosity. So that's cool. So apparently, I guess Amy Pepler must be a spoonflower artist. So she must sell her fabrics through spoonflower, her designs through spoonflower maybe. I really like some of these like really sort of pop art kind of 1960s sort of Puccini kind of stuff. And this one is called Code of Good Fortune. Let's get back here. Wait a minute, where's that number again? Oh, 7. Okay. So this is by Eveline Van Peen of Todmorden, Calderdale, UK. Code of Good Fortunes, machine and hand stitched, applique and embroidery. 3 repurposed Wrangler's men's shirts and waist cotton material. For the theme Rags to Riches, I was drawn to explore true riches as opposed to worldly wealth and incorporated symbols that enrich my personal life. My design was partially inspired by the Tasmanian Westbury quilt. For the sleeves, I reflected on enriching societal values that are becoming fragile. So I'm not familiar with the Tasmanian Westbury quilt. I'll have to look that up. So yeah, I thought this was sweet, that these were the things that she finds, to be riches in her life. So time. It looks like she's got some chickens and a cat and a dog. Being able to read, peace, shelter, bike rides, love. I thought these were just really lovely. And I think that the buttons that she's made, they're those like good fortune coins that have the hole in the center. Um, yeah, so tea with friends, knitting. I'm not sure what that one is. Um, and then you see these things: empathy, dialogue, community. This is probably kindness. Her dog's name is Buttons. I think that's a dog, right? Yeah. Yeah, and here's a close up of the buttons. 5 kroner. Oh, it's actually not the Asian buttons. I thought they were the kroner. And then this is the back of it, which is funny. They have so the coat of good fortunes, and then she has these hands on the two um, pockets: nature, luck, good health. um, you can't tell what that one is, but yeah, it just visually a really interesting piece. Sewing. I still not sure. There's something swimming maybe. And that is it. So I hope you enjoyed those. It was, oh gosh, was it my favorite? I don't know, I had so many favorites there. I'm not sure if I could say it was my favorite or not because I really loved everything that I saw there. So let me get myself recombobulated. Um, okay, so shall we do a little reading, my friends? Secret of the Crazy Quilt. Let me find. Ba, ba, ba. Well, here we go. When you're reading a digital book, you have to figure out which of the images is the right one. Okay, and then let's have a picture. I think Robin said we've got 2 more chapters left. I haven't really counted. I flipped through. Okay. All right. So I'm really curious. Like we've sort of solved a little bit of the rum running, but we still don't know what the deal with this quilt is. So I remain intrigued of like how she's gonna wrap this up. Okay. Recombobulated. All right. So we are back to Jerusha. We finished up Edith's narrative. Got into all the specifics. The picture that you see besides the front of the book is, I believe this is Chester's mother sneaking into the garage to find out what's in there, and it turns out it's radio device incoming, outgoing radio device, and lots of booze. All right, so Jerusha's narrative. I am a nurse. During the 4 weeks that Braun was in bed at the Haven, I had all I could take of being treated like a grown-up and trying to act like one. Right away, when I came down to breakfast, very late on the morning after the shooting, Aunt Edith told me I must be Braun's nurse. Grandpa had insisted Braun stay with us until he was better. He wouldn't hear of the hospital. Aunt Edith said she would cook, clean, do the laundry, help me in every way she could, do anything, in fact, except see Braun. She said then, as she had before, that she never wanted to see him again. Dr. Davis came every day. He gave his orders to me. Freddie sat with Braun sometimes in the afternoon. Grandpa sat with him at night and slept better in a chair beside Braun than in his own bed. Chester had intended to come up to visit Braun, but he was traveling to and from Boston, New York, and even Washington, making reports about the grand coup that failed. He sent Braun a picture postcard every day to make up for not coming himself. Braun was very much my responsibility. Aunt Edith and I didn't talk together in the evenings the way we had earlier in the summer. Braun had brought us together then. Our hopes and fears, our shared bit of gossip, our speculation and confessions all centered on him. Now, when Braun came into our conversation, Aunt Edith acted as if he were the patient of a medical discussion, or someone she had read about in a newspaper once long ago. Anyway, I was too sleepy at night for confidential chats. During the day, when I came downstairs to eat or on errands, Aunt Edith discussed every subject except Braun with me as if we were equals. She never criticized or scolded me. She praised me and wrote letters in my praise to my parents. Living up to Aunt Edith's high opinion of me was an awful strain. If I complained about anything, she tried to fix it right away. Sometimes she was cross and scolded Grandpa or Freddie or Dr. Davis or herself, but never me. She urged me to take naps or walks or sails, and she cooked special delicacies to tempt my appetite. I think I would have felt more comfortable if sometimes she had given me one of her old no-nonsense now schoolmarm lectures. She was so kind and gentle and grateful to me for helping her over this bad time that I had to do my best, every minute, to be worthy. I felt sorry for her, too, because I knew that even more than I, she was hurt by what Braun had done. Nursing Braun was a strain, too, but he didn't set any high standards for me to live up to. In fact, he seemed to me to be indulging in all the childishness I was having to forego. After the first few days, he began to run a fever. Dr. Davis said he had a respiratory infection which might develop into pneumonia. Wow. I mean, I guess you get shot in the leg and then who knows. I can't imagine being shot in the leg and being nursed back to health at home without painkillers and IVs and other such. It's probably why people died frequently in the 20s. He came twice a day until the fever went down and was very particular about how I carried out his orders. He said that everything depended on my keeping Braun warm and quiet, getting him to drink plenty of liquids, giving him his medicines on schedule, and checking his temperature regularly. I'm guessing the medicines would be painkillers? Let's see. This was supposed to be 1920 something. Antibiotics weren't widely available until the end of the 20s, right? I think. Penicillin. I don't know. From the first, Braun had seemed to me to resent everything I tried to do for him. Most of the time, luckily for me, he was very weak. He lay quietly against his pillows and whispered to me to stop pestering him with soup and pills and thermometers and leave him to die in peace. In the late afternoons, though, when his fever was at its height, he got restless and almost wild. One day, he knocked the thermometer right out of my hand and broke it. On another, he threw back his covers, exclaiming they were like a huge hot flat iron pressing him down. I brought him another lighter blanket, and he threw that off too, muttering things I couldn't understand and glaring at me. He sat straight up as if he were going to climb out of bed. I tried to push him back, and he pushed me away. "Where is she?" he demanded. "What have you done with her?" I guess he meant Mrs. Munson. "She had to go away very suddenly," I said. "Why?" I'm not sure why," I faltered. Remembering the letter that Mary hadn't delivered and hoping to quiet Braun, I added, "She wants you to trust her and wait." He seemed relieved. He leaned back against his pillows, let me cover him again, and soon fell asleep. Braun, weak and feverish, was easier to nurse than Braun convalescent. As soon as he felt better, he told Dr. Davis, very rudely, to get him some crutches. He wanted to walk down to the cove and live aboard Irene again, where he'd be safe from medicines and thermometers and other indignities. Dr. Davis explained very carefully and scientifically why Braun must stay in bed another 2 weeks before he could try to walk with crutches. Braun cursed him, using words I had never heard before. Dr. Davis walked out of the room. I guess he was afraid that if he stayed, he would lose his temper too. Later, Dr. Davis telephoned me to say that from now on he was only coming to see Braun once a week, but would telephone me every morning and evening. I was to report to him and then take down his instructions. In case of emergency, I was to telephone him right away. He gave me his telephone numbers at home, at the office, and at the hospital. He was a very conscientious doctor. Braun said that since Dr. Davis was determined to keep him a prisoner, the least I could do was to get him a few of his own things out of Irene. Between us, during the afternoon, Freddie and I made at least 10 trips to and from Irene, bringing things Braun thought he wanted that weren't there, or that Braun decided once he had them he didn't want them after all. Finally, Freddie burst into tears. Braun realized how mean he had been, and he burst into tears too. And so did I. We came together in a 3-way embrace on the bed, only I had to dash away to answer the telephone. It was Dr. Davis wanting my evening report. The next morning, still in a repentant mood, Braun begged me to bring him the ugly quilt we had found up in the cupola. "I know you hate it," he said, "but I've been thinking how your dear grandmother sewed it when she was a prisoner in this room, just the way I am now. Her imprisonment was no less real for being self-imposed. My sufferings now must be like hers then." "Oh, I know, Jerry." Braun gave me a sheepish grin. "You think the sufferings I endure are nothing compared to what I inflict on you with my moods and tantrums, and I don't blame you. I'm a pain in the neck. I do suffer, though, and now maybe I can understand, as I couldn't before, why your grandmother sewed the quilt and kept it and wanted it when she felt she was about to die. I'm sure it is what she wanted." Braun paused and thought. I kept remembering the look in her eyes when she was trying to tell us to get her a quilt. It was so unlike her, and this quilt is unlike her too, and unlike all the other quilts she sewed. You see, Jerry, there is a connection between the quilt and the way she looked, if I can only find out what it is. "Come on, Jerry," he coaxed, "get it for me. I promise I'll behave and be a good patient, and if I can't find this connection I'm looking for, I'll let Edie burn the quilt when she gets back, which is what you and she have been wanting to do right along. By the way," he added, "when is she coming home?" I realized then that Braun, in his fever, had somehow mixed up what I told him about Mrs. Munson with Aunt Edith. Or perhaps he hadn't mixed anything up. Perhaps he'd been asking about Aunt Edith and I had misunderstood him. I had often wondered that he hadn't asked where she was and why she hadn't been in to see him, and I had dreaded telling him that she never wanted to see him again. Flustered and anxious to avoid another scene, I just muttered something about not being sure and ran off to find the quilt. Ugly and sinister as it was, it saved me that time from having to tell Braun the truth, and for the next 2 days it kept Braun so absorbed he didn't ask about Aunt Edith again. When he wasn't examining the quilt, stitch by stitch, or feeling it over, or even sniffing at it, he was staring straight ahead at nothing and concentrating. At night, we put the quilt in a bureau drawer so Grandpa wouldn't see it and be disturbed. Those were 2 of the easiest days I had with Braun. On the 3rd day, I came in with his lunch tray to find him flat on his back on the floor, staring groggily at the ceiling. I tugged at him with all my strength, but I couldn't lift him. For once, maybe because he was dazed, he cooperated. Between us, we got him back into bed. Since there didn't seem to be much the matter with him, and he begged me not to call in Dr. Davis, I didn't. Braun was grateful to me, and the next morning he said he was sorry for the trouble he'd caused me and explained how he came to fall. Oh my goodness. After he had concentrated on the quilt for 2 days without discerning the faintest glimmer of the connection he was looking for, he did come up with a useful idea. To make the illuminating connection between Grandma's terror and the quilt, he needed a catalyst. The catalyst might be anything: a letter, a book, a scrap of cloth or paper, or a remark by someone who had once seen or heard something. It could be anywhere in the Haven or in Sewell for that matter. Most likely it was lost or destroyed. Braun said he would have to give up right then, appalled by the needle in the haystack aspect of his quest, if his eye hadn't lighted on the gold Gothic lettering on the backs of the old books in my bookcase. It was the same Gothic lettering on the same old books that caught the morning sun and delighted me when I was a child. Braun guessed what I had always known, that the books had belonged to Grandma when she was a girl. Don't give up, he told himself, until you've had a look at those. In his eagerness, forgetting how weak he was and the doctor's orders, he climbed out of bed and fell. I brought him the books and piled them all around him on the bed and the table beside the bed. Reading through them, looking for his catalyst, kept him busy for another 2 days. Finally, he told me to put them all back in the bookcase, except for the one which was a textbook of Pitman shorthand. It had Grandma's name on the flyleaf and must have been the book she used at business school. I've about given up on the quilt, said Braun, but this is something she knew about and I don't, and shorthand is a useful tool. And studying shorthand will keep me quiet and out of your hair until Edie gets back and can help you. By the way, when is she coming back? I didn't know if she was planning a long visit, but of course I didn't see much of her this summer. Braun frowned, and a wistful note came into his voice. She didn't tell me her plans. There was no reason, of course. Why should she? I should have told him then, but I didn't have the nerve. Again, I pretended I didn't know. For the next 4 days, Braun concentrated on learning shorthand. He sat up with the ugly quilt spread over the bottom of the bed, to keep him, he said, from forgetting about it. He read and memorized and scribbled down the shorthand symbols so hard and fast that he had finished the first 10 lessons by the afternoon of the first day. Then he made me give him dictation for 2 hours. Each day he worked harder and faster. I wouldn't have believed that anyone could get so fired up for so long about something as dull as shorthand. He didn't notice when I showed him the crutches that Dr. Davis had sent up for him to practice on. He didn't hear anything I said, except when I was dictating to him out of the book. He forgot to eat his meals. He began to look as pale and thin as he had the first days after he was shot. When he announced he was going to study nights, too, I telephoned Dr. Davis. He brought up some sleeping pills, which I got Braun to eat by telling him that they would help him stay awake and study. That, after all, was what Grandpa said Dr. Davis's sleeping pills did, so I was not really lying. Braun fell asleep over his shorthand before I had even got Grandpa settled in the room with him for the night. The next day, Braun was furious with me for deceiving him. He told me to get out of his room and stay out until he called for me. I got mad then, too. I told him he had a nerve saying the room was his when it was mine, and he would call a long time before I came to him. I stamped out. I got some books and some gum out of Freddie's drawer, and I spent the morning, it was warm and sunny again, lounging in the arbor vitae jungle. It was wonderful just to be lazy for a change. I hope you got a sale, Jerry, said Braun when I returned. You've been cooped up with me and my bad temper too long. You deserve some fun for a change. He had piled up all his papers and books neatly on the table beside him. He had folded the ugly quilt up small and held it on his knees. He had combed his hair and put on clean pajamas. He smiled as if my coming back really made him happy. My heart throbbed, almost as it had so long ago it seemed now, when a smile from Braun was like a glimpse of heaven to me. I didn't feel like a sail, so I just lay under the arbor vitae and chewed gum and read a little and looked out over the river the way I used to when I watched for you to come back in Irene. I stopped feeling foolish. What was the point of harking back to old times or the old Braun or the old me? All of them were gone. You'll have time to sail again now, said Braun, and maybe you'll take me along sometimes. She's back, you know, and she'll help you, and I'm almost well. Again, Braun smiled as if he found me pleasing. You've been great, Jerry. You really have. Edie'll be proud when I tell her what a magnificent job you've done of managing me. And I've got something else to tell her, too. I don't know how she'll take it. Call her up quick, Jerry, please, like a good girl. I can't wait any longer. She must have got back just now while you were hidden in your jungle because you left the door open and I heard her step downstairs. I felt cold and a little sick. I knew I couldn't fool him any longer. She's been here all the time, I said. Braun looked what Grandma used to call flabbergasted. You told me she had gone away for a visit. I took a deep breath. I didn't mean to lie. I wasn't lying at first because when you asked for Aunt Edith, I thought you were asking... I hesitated, but finally got it out. For Mrs. Munson. Oh, that, said Braun. I see. After a long pause, he added, so Edith has been in the house all the time I've been sick, and she's never once been up to see me? After what you've done, I said, she says she never wants to see you again. Braun winced. She's a hard woman, he said. Other people give me the benefit of the doubt. After all, there is no evidence against me. Only Edith is too proud. He broke off. After a moment, he added, I'm surprised she's let me stay here at all. I explained how Grandpa had insisted that Braun stay at the Haven until he was well, and how Aunt Edith and I divided the work so that she helped me even though she didn't have anything to do with Braun. He said, how cleverly she preserves the amenities without soiling her immaculate self. I wasn't sure what Braun meant by this, but his voice and his eyes were so hard that I felt I must put in a word for Aunt Edith. You did deceive her, Braun. She's very unhappy about it. I know she is. Braun glanced down at the ugly quilt folded on his lap. He looked up at me with hard eyes and a funny smile. Don't make excuses for her. There's a vindictive streak in the females of your family. That's clear, and Edith's got it worst of all. Braun gave a harsh laugh. It seems to have missed you, Jerry. His voice and eyes softened. You've been very good to me, thank you. He sighed, looked down at the quilt again, and then around my room, and finally back at me. I'm not hungry, and I don't need anything. Chester's coming to see me later. In his last postcard, he promised he'd come today. I'll do a little writing until then. You run along to your jungle, or have a sail, or anything you like. There's a good girl. He smiled his old gentle smile at me, and then forgot me, I could tell, for his own thoughts. I was relieved to have come through that ordeal. So, the next section, still Jerusha, is called Gone. Bear with me just a minute. Let's see. Oops. Okay. Drew had found some good details. Okay, so her guess was morphine for the pills. The first antibiotic, salvarsan, was synthesized in 1910, okay, by Paul Ehrlich and Sahashiro Hata. Penicillin, discovered by Alexander Fleming in 1928, is considered a landmark discovery in the field of antibiotics. But it was not until the 1940s that penicillin was mass-produced and made widely available for clinical use. Oh, arborvitae. Arborvitae? Is that how it's pronounced? All right. Gone. Aunt Edith was out when she left some lunch for me in the kitchen. After I had eaten, I wandered into the yard. There wasn't wind enough to rustle the leaves of the wisteria, let alone sail my boat. I crawled through the arborvitae. I'm never going to get it right. The arborvitae jungle, and took the path back down to the cove. In the 4 weeks I'd been cooped up, it's only been 4 weeks. Only been 4 weeks. It feels like it's been forever. In the 4 weeks I'd been cooped up, the wild roses had given place to early goldenrod. The marshes below were more... Oh, I guess, you know what? I'm guessing the 4 weeks is with Braun, not the whole summer. Because this should be getting close to the end of the summer now. The wild roses had given place to early goldenrod. The marshes below were even more brown now than green, clouded with patches of sea lavender. Sea lavender. Oh my goodness. Haze blotted out the horizon and dimmed the sparkle of the water. The black Irene and my white catboat, the shiny newness of their paint weathered away, hung motionless and a little shabby on their moorings. The cove, so bright and glancing when I'd seen it first that summer on a breezy afternoon in June, was subdued today, and it seemed to me tinged with sadness. I calculated that in about a week, Freddie and I must go home to Chicago. Braun would have to be up and out of the Haven by then. I knew I should go back and start him practicing on his crutches, but I lingered to skip Pebbles and dream about the cove and the old, bustling days Grandma had told me about, and to think about Grandma, too. I was ashamed that in the past weeks I had thought so little about her. I felt that I had been disloyal. I wandered along the base of the hill, as I had so often with her, picking sea lavender, inspecting the wild beach plum bushes, the plums were still green, and looking for the big old mullein plant known to Grandma and me as Mr. Mullein. It stood there, shooting up above the goldenrod, just as it had been when Grandma and I first discovered and named it long ago. Every year we used to measure my height against Mr. Mullen's. Only last summer, Grandma and I had measured me, and I had been childishly proud to find myself as tall as he. In memory of Grandma, I measured myself now as best as I could by myself. I was at least 2 inches taller than Mr. Mullein. As I sauntered back to the path and climbed the hill toward home, I thought about how different I was now from the little girl of a year or even 2 months ago. I found Braun busily writing. He said Chester had helped him practice on the crutches and had only just left. As soon as he had finished what he was writing, Braun said he would like to practice some more. He did so well on the crutches that since Aunt Edith was still out, I suggested he try going up and down the stairs. Oh, goodness. Up and down stairs with crutches. That was dangerous. He managed the stairs without mishap, and when we were safely back in the room, he said, "Do you remember at the beginning of the summer how we started out on an ice cream sail to Houghton Landing and turned back because we figured out where the quilt was hidden?" I remembered. "You can put the quilt away or throw it away or whatever you like. I'm through with it. But I would still like to sail to Houghton Landing with you and buy an ice cream cone. Do you think you would help me down to the cove tomorrow and sail us over the way we were going to?" "Oh, yes," I said. "Let's try it." There was a wind next morning, and we got off early while Aunt Edith was dusting Grandpa's study. I left her a note telling where we had gone and when we'd probably be back so she could keep out of the way and not see Braun. Braun was pretty tired when we got to the cove. He said he was glad he didn't have to row and asked me to row the skiff once around Irene before we boarded the catboat. He held on to Irene's gunwale for a few minutes while he looked into the cockpit and then said something I couldn't understand, in Polish, I guess, patted Irene's hull and told me to row on. He needed lots of help to climb aboard the catboat and get completely settled. I raised the sail, cast off, and tacked down the river into the harbor. There was a fresh southeast breeze smacked into us. And I got so interested in my sailing that I forgot about everything else. We made Houghton Landing in 2 hours, which was good time against a headwind. We tied up at the town pier, and I helped Braun out of the catboat, and he hobbled on his crutches to King's, the ice cream and candy store. There's a new picture, by the way. We ate our cones sitting at one of the tables in the store so that Bron could rest. He asked the salesgirl if she knew how he could get a taxi. When she said sure, she would call the number for him and the taxi would be around in a few minutes. He turned to me. "While I'm here, Jerry," he said, "I would like to drive over to the Catholic cemetery and look at the graves of my parents. I haven't been there for a long time. I want to go alone. You don't mind waiting a little while, do you? It won't take very long." I said I wouldn't mind. "That's a good girl. While I'm gone, you pick out 2 pounds of chocolates for you and Freddie to eat on the train on your way home. I'll pay for them now along with the cones." Bron paid the salesgirl. The taxi arrived. Bron got in, waved to me, and was driven away. The salesgirl didn't have any other customers, and she let me take my time about choosing the chocolates I wanted. She even gave me free samples when I couldn't decide between Needhams and Nougats. Ooh, what's a Needham? You know I liked the candies. It hardly seemed any time at all before the taxi came back. The driver came into the store with 3 envelopes in his hand. "I guess you're the girl, all right," he said, and handed the envelopes to me. One had my name on it, one had Grandpa's, and one had Aunt Edith's. "Where is he?" I asked. "Don't worry," said the taxi driver. "I got him on the 11:53 out of the junction. He was afraid he'd stayed so long at the cemetery that he'd missed the train, but the conductor's a friend of mine. He saw us coming and waited a minute, and he helped him get aboard." The driver waved to the salesgirl, said so long, and left. I sat looking at the envelopes. They were bent from being carried in Bron's pocket, and the writing was smudged, I guessed from spray. I decided I'd rather open my envelope and read what was inside alone on the catboat than in the store. I forgot my candy, and as I left, the salesgirl ran after me with it. "You okay, honey?" she asked. "You look sort of pale." "I'm okay," I said, "and thanks for the candy." I smiled, nodded, took the candy, and made a dash for the pier. I read my letter sitting in the catboat. It said, "Dear Jerry, I'm not enough of a stoic to stand up like a man, as they used to tell me when I was a boy. And say goodbye to Reverend Fonts, to Freddie, and least of all to you. I'd cry like a baby and embarrass you. That's why I've slipped off like this. Please forgive me, and forgive me too for all the thoughtlessness, selfishness, and ill temper I've subjected you to over the past month. Do you remember those lovely lazy afternoons when you and Freddie and I sunned ourselves on Irene and exchanged confidences?" Ooh, okay. So Drew had said, Needhams. Ah, they have mashed potatoes in them. While you can't taste the potato, it provides the unique, creamy, and moist texture that distinguishes it from other coconut candies. Oh, wait a minute. I think I might have missed something. Oh, so Needhams are nougats with chewy... Needhams and nougats are both chewy, sweet candies, but they differ significantly in ingredients, texture, and origin. Needhams are a dense, coconut-based Maine delicacy, while nougats are a classic confection made from whipped egg whites and sugar with many regional variations. Ah, so potato and coconut. That is fascinating. So, I guess while we're in Maine, Portland, Maine, I'm going to have to find out if Needhams are something that we can get there. Okay. So, sunning themselves on Irene. How happy we were then. I said that I was going to do something distinguished to show you that I was a better American than any of you. In spite of everything, I'm still proud and ambitious and honest in my way. I may have deceived you, Jerry, but I never deceived myself. I'm off now to show what I can do on my own. If I can't come back a success, I shan't come back at all. I guess I am vindictive, too. As for you, dear Jerry, you are better than the rest of us. Stay as you are and try to keep a small place in your heart for me. You will always be in mine. Say goodbye to Freddie for me. Tell him that I will always love him and remember him, and that when he is a great inventor, as he surely will be someday, I hope he will sometimes remember Irene and me. Your friend, Bron. How well indeed I remembered those afternoons on Irene. The swimming, the sarsaparilla, the cookies, the delicious smell of Braun's after-shaving lotion, and dearest memory of all, Braun himself, smiling at me, patting my shoulder, while the sun glinted on his golden hair. My memories and the flattering and loving things Braun had written to me made me cry. Out of that letter, written by the new Braun, the ill-tempered patient, the deceiver, the lover of a lady bootlegger already married to someone else, had sprung my old Braun, the one I had loved and lost, who had never existed except in my imagination anyway. Once it started, I couldn't stop crying. I cried for myself because all my feelings and everything I had ever known or believed were churning around inside me like an undigested meal, making me miserable. I cried for both Brauns. I no longer knew which was which, but their sudden departure had left me with a terrible ache. I cried for Aunt Edith, whom I used to hate, who was my closest friend. She was getting her wish of never seeing Braun again, and yet this was almost as sad as the loss of Braun himself. I cried for Grandpa and Freddie because they were gentle and good. I cried for Sunbeam because he was a fine old cat who had belonged to my dear grandma, who was dead. As Grandpa said, nothing was right since she had died. Nothing was clear or certain or manageable anymore, and I suspected nothing would ever be again. I sat in the catboat and cried on until I was cried out and felt better. I didn't have a handkerchief, so I wiped my eyes and blew my nose on the edge of the sail before I raised and cast off. I sat on the letters and the box of chocolates all the way home so they wouldn't blow away or get wet. And Edith's narrative is the last one. I'm going to leave off there. The message of the quilt is the first section of Edith's narrative. So we might finally find out what it's about. I'm also wondering, was Braun really having an affair with Mrs. Munson or not? I mean, that's what it has looked like so far, but I keep hoping that there's some explanation or some twist that reveals he was not having an affair with this woman. So, I guess we shall see next time. Well, with that, I will sign off for today. Is some secret worse than an affair? It could be. We never know. Because nobody has specifically said to him, Braun, why were you having an affair with Mrs. Munson? It's never specifically been said. And I belong to the it's just the risk that they take for the cover of the affair. Yeah. I don't know. I mean, I always think of Three's Company. You guys know I love Three's Company. And Three's Company is always a misunderstanding of something. The other day was an episode where Jack went out, got a tattoo with his old Navy buddies. Terry, this was one of the later episodes, Terry called a doctor she knew who could have it removed, but he needed to do it very soon because he had this opening in his schedule. Well, Janet, overhearing some of this, thought that Jack was going to get a vasectomy, and I can't remember why. And then Mr. Furley, he overheard something and thought that Jack was having a sex change. Because, Jack is supposed to be gay because, he shouldn't be living with two women because it's the 80s. Anyway, I feel like there's gotta be a better explanation for Braun as an awful person who is having an affair. We know he wasn't rum running. At least we don't think he was. Maybe he was. Maybe he was rum running. Who knows? All right. So tomorrow, I don't remember what Jill and I are doing tomorrow. But I hope you will join us at 7 p.m. Eastern Time on YouTube for Quilt Nerding. And of course, I will see you on Thursday. And we might be getting to the end of this book and the end of The Secret. So I hope you guys have a wonderful Labor Day. Whether you are pro or con on labor unions. And for every nerd who is having some cookout or barbecue or something today, I hope you have a wonderful day. It's beautiful, so I'm going to head outside for a little bit, even though I'm not having any barbecue or cookout food. Yeah. So take care, you guys, and I will see you soon. Mwah, mwah, mwah.